That must have been a lot of work. It was then that the hostess brought out in the extra drinks that we had ordered before. While the bottles of beer clanked as she brought them in, we halted our conversation. What I wish he meant when he said it must have been tough. Thinking about that was still hard, but time had healed the wound. It was the day after, when I phoned Oishi to apologize. When I did, Oishi almost immediately handed the phone to one of my colleagues, who happened to be there. Not only was I injured in the brawl with the suspects, but I disappeared to drink late into the night without leaving any sort of contact information, so I thought he'd definitely be mad. However, all he said was that it was something he couldn't talk about over the phone, and that I should come to the station as soon as possible. At the time, I could only think that he must have been really pissed off. But when I arrived at the station, he said this: "It seems your wife was involved in an accident." Having no idea what happened, I borrowed the phone to contact the hospital Yuki was staying at. After being given the runaround several times, I was finally able to talk to someone in charge, and after mincing words for quite some time, they told me Yuki killed in an accident. The world became a blur as I sat there dumbfounded. Yuki's death was unbelievably abrupt and unbelievably sudden. I could have understood there was some kind of problem during the birth, but Yuki's death wasn't anything like that. On the stairs on the way up to the roof, she just happened to slip and fall, and she just happened to fall in an unfortunate place at an unfortunate angle. That was it. Huh. She died on the night of the Watanagashi. I wonder if this has anything. Wanting to blame Yuki's death on somebody, I began to think that it was an act of revenge of the Defense Alliance. That they killed my wife and made it look like an accident. Or that it was something supernatural. What I learned when I flew back to Tokyo, however, was much more cruel than that. Yuki had a habit of going up to the roof to cool off in the evening. There was an elevator up to the 7th floor, but from there you had to take the stairs to get to the roof. Even late in her pregnancy, when the evening came, she would always go head up there. Her father had always said for her not to push herself. Huh. You know, if we had just left on day one, or just said, screw this, probably wouldn't have made any difference in terms of Mizawa. The grandson would have still been released safely after enough time had passed. We would have never been shot or had our head hit really hard. And we would have been back, to prevent this. Heck, if we had actually managed to call her in time, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But Yuki insisted that until the time came, she had no choice but to stay in bed. She should be allowed to do as she wished. However, I had never once seen Yuki go up to the roof. I only heard that from her father and the nurses, and that was because whenever I visited her, she would spend that time with me instead. I heard the reason why Yuki went up to the roof from a nurse she had become friendly with. She had said that her husband was away on business a lot of the time, and that whenever he called, she was able to cheer him up and give him courage. But when he didn't call, she couldn't do that. Her husband might put on a show of bravado, but in reality he grew lonesome pathetically fast. She was probably just the same. Whenever he left for business, not clear when he'd be back, she felt very lonely. So it was literally our fault for not calling her. Heck, if we had just called her from the hospital office phone, our wife and child would be alive. Well, that sucks. Everyone I care about is dead. That's my fault. Whenever she cheered him up, she was actually cheering herself up as well. That's why whenever he went far away for an important job, on the evenings he didn't call, at the very least she felt like standing underneath the same sky her feelings would reach him. At that moment, I remember the words the girl had told me, that it was best I go back to Tokyo right away, otherwise it would be something I'd regret horribly. Yes, that's it, because I was away on business that day. Yuki had headed up to the roof. Had I known this would have been the result, had I done as the girl had said, and dropped everything to head back to Tokyo, I might have been on Yuki on the day she died, and then she wouldn't have died. If I was with her, she wouldn't have gone up the roof. Heck, all we had to do was just call her, and she wouldn't have gone up there. So all we had to do was call her from the hospital phone instead of going out to all those payphones. And you know what would happen? A lot more people would be alive. Precisely 2 of them. The day my wife died was on the evening of the 3rd day of my trip. Yes, it was right before the time I had the sudden urge to hear Yuki's voice and ran around the village trying to find a phone. The girl had gone around and cut all the phone cords. If she hadn't, and I had made that phone call... Oh. Rika, on the one hand you said you were my savior, and you probably voiced an opinion to the people of the council to not kill me. At the same time, you're the one who cut the phone cord so I couldn't talk to my wife. Granted, yes, it would have been smarter for me just to use the office phone right from the start, even before the payphone, and even after that I shouldn't have gone, even without knowing this extra stuff. I should just use the office phone at both junctures. But you, even if you don't have supernatural powers, still cut multiple payphone cords. And you were there at the 3rd payphone at exactly the time. Also, you do have supernatural powers to see the future. Which means, not only did you purposely cut the phone cords to cause an inconvenience, but you did so specifically to me, specifically so I couldn't call my wife, specifically so my wife and child would die. Does that count as murder? If you do something that doesn't directly cause someone's death, but you know it will cause their death, and you're doing so implicitly with the desire to cause that death. If she hadn't and I had made that call, I would undoubtedly learned of Yuki's death at that time and collapsed in tears. Or I would have called her... Like, here's the thing. She wasn't... What, did she die the day after? Or the day before? Was she already dead on the 2nd day? So here's the thing. Either she died on the 3rd night, at which point, if Rika hadn't cut the phone cords, I could have saved my wife's life, as well as my unborn child. But if she had died on the 2nd day, or even the 1st, but basically, even if she died by the 2nd day, then she was already dead, and Rika cut the phone cords so that I would have a little bit more time to compose myself and be ready for this news, as well as to be able to talk to her, be able to have her little prophecy of the future, and spend some time with the old guys at the shrine and basically just hang out and have a generally good day just hanging out with people and talking. As just something as a comfort. So depending on the day it occurred, it either is a premeditated murder that's very cruel and malicious and spiteful, or she didn't do anything that hurt me, and there was nothing that could be done to save my wife. And it also means on the 2nd day, when she was looking at me at the dam site, you know, my wife was probably already dead at that point. But it could be if she died on day 2 instead of day 3. Rika was not in any ways responsible, and she was actually just trying to prevent me from learning the truth right away so I could have an extra night of peace. Heck, in my weakened state I was last night, if I had found out right away, maybe my heart or mind couldn't have taken it. Then again, am I going to develop Himatsubushi syndrome at some point? Heck, was it Oyoshiro-sama playing Hitman 4 with Yuki? Of course, even though the cords were cut, it only put me off learning of Yuki's death by that one evening. In the end, I had learned of it the next morning. However, when I managed to put my emotions in order, I realized it was the girl's small token of consideration. That's the first thing I've heard about that. Yeah, it's the first time I talked about it. Could it have been a coincidence? She doesn't have any special powers or anything. Aren't you the one who told me, Oishi-san, that she might be the reincarnation of the god Oyoshiro-sama? Well, yeah. The old folks in the village believed that Rika Furude had divine powers. Had? Oishi! I am. Also, I have a question. Well, had, has, divine powers, the S or D. You know, how does past tense, present tense, and future tense really get displayed in Japanese? What about German? What about French? What about Hebrew? What about Latin? Or Greek? But yeah, had. What was this one word here that is concerning? Divine powers. That is not the word we need to be focusing on! Oishi had originally said it was kind of a joke, but realizing that it was serious, he slumped his shoulders. I don't know if it's the truth or not. They said she did things like prophesize the future. Did? Or talk about things she should have no way of knowing. That she was clairvoyant, that it was divine revelation. Well, all sorts of things. Of course, they couldn't give specific examples, though. She prophesized Yuki's accident. Oishi tried to laugh it off, but out of respect to my deceased wife, he kept it restrained. Does that mean an active and capable investigator from the Metropolitan Police Department believes in divine powers and curses? Having him say that so bluntly, I couldn't respond. Hey, I believe we're in the one timeline where everyone lived. Or didn't, I don't know. Just saying. Oishi, you've seen some shit. Though most of those other timelines, I guess you don't remember. I was like, oh, apparently Oishi doesn't remember things from parallel universes. Having him say that so bluntly, I couldn't respond. Of course, I had no intention of believing such odd things, but he could only say that because he didn't know what I did. Since I met the other girl, who both was and wasn't Rika Furude, I couldn't deny the existence of any otherworldly entity. Of course, I can't deny that it might not have been prescience, but rather a warning. Not prescience, but a warning? If what the girl had said was a warning about Yuki's accident, then things to go on much easier to understand. Basically, the line of thinking became that it was a threat. Because I didn't go back to Tokyo, my wife was killed in a way that made it look like an accident. So did someone push my wife down the stairs? That was a physical human being that was sent here as a jackass. Or did ghosts from this little mountain village fly out of the sky? Not satisfied with the investigation of your wife's accident, of course, I suspected foul play. I pored over the results, and I even carried out my own personal investigation. There weren't any witnesses to Yuki's fall. There was the possibility that somebody had hidden waiting to push Yuki down the stairs. However, the cleaning ladies frequented the roof to hang laundry, and the security cameras on each floor hadn't recorded anything out of the ordinary. There wasn't anything set up the stairs. I was unable to find anything suspicious. So, either one, something supernatural did it, or it was just an accident that was destined to happen if I wasn't there. And she could see the probability that, hey, this is what's going to happen if you're not there to stop it. So, you should probably be there to stop it. In the end, even after my personal investigation, I can't think of that anything else happened other than a simple accident. Well, of course, these were the guys that took the minister's grandson hostage. It wouldn't be impossible for them to push a lone pregnant woman down the stairs without leaving any evidence. Oishi's expression had completely sobered up. They murdered your wife? When Yuki died, I thought that as well. More precisely, I wanted to blame somebody, so I created the most viable scapegoat, but without any clear evidence, that violent notion faded along with the wounds in my heart. Did that girl know beforehand about my wife's death and was threatening me? Or did she prophesize the death and was offering me a road to salvation? If I chose between the two, I would tend towards the latter. Oishi smiled slightly in disbelief as he poured more beer from his bottle. Then, if I may, if what you say is true, then Rika Furude was a prophet who knew the future. If so, why didn't she predict that disaster? If she knew that the gas eruption was going to happen, why did she remain silent? Even a few hours beforehand would have been enough. If the village knew, then most of the people would have escaped without dying. It was near the end of June 1983. Volcanic gases from the Onagafushi swamp erupted and hit the village in the middle of the night. It was an unprecedented disaster where the whole populace was wiped out. Does that happen in every timeline? It's just most of the other timelines were kind of dead before this happens. I think Game 3 was the first timeline where we stayed alive this long, too. And then, of course, we're in Timeline 4? Or is this aftermath of Timeline 3? Or parallel dimension? Perpendicular dimensions? Whatever bullshit. The whole populace was wiped out. It caused a wave of panic about volcanic gas across the country, causing people to overreact over any reports of odd smells. I hadn't heard of the blockade on the Himasao area being lifted, so should still be cordoned off. That's... It was my turn to be lost for a moment. Response. Well, if Rika Furude, the reincarnation of Shama, was killed, then the village might have incurred the god's wrath, making him call forth the miasma of the swamp to kill everyone. That explanation is what the survivors are whispering about. Sorry, Oishi-san. Did you just say she was killed? Huh? Yeah. Well, I don't think it would be a problem if I told you. When I saw the news about the gas disaster, I remembered that girl. I then found her name in the list of victims. That's why at the time I thought her own death she had predicted was due to the gas. It was after that I learned from the tabloids of the serious mysterious deaths in Himazawa during the 5 years leading up to the disaster that became known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. And that string of mysterious deaths lined up exactly with what the girl had predicted. So I had always thought to ask Oishi-sama about it, as he had been involved in the investigation. That's right. That was the reason for our reunion. But right now Oishi had said Rika Furude didn't die in the disaster, but was killed. Can I ask you about the last year of the curse? I may be retired, but I still have to keep things confidential, you know. Excuse me, madam. Do you have anything cold that's brewed locally? High grade, if there is. I'll leave the selection to you. Oh my, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, she laughed. Loudly, not wholly unsatisfied, then stopped the hostess to tell her that the cheap booze... Oh, we're bribing him. Or at least we're trying to placate him. Okay, we're not doing anything, well, quite that nefarious. We're just being like, no, here, have some good booze, man. I understand it's a big deal. So, you know what? Here's my token of good fortune. It's not a bribe, not placating you. I'm just saying, hey, man, I understand. It's cool. You know. But, you know, it's me. So, you can tell me. I know as much as was written in the magazines, but I don't know anything about the curse that happened the year after the disaster. Because the entire area around Himazawa was sealed off, you see. There wasn't much of an investigation that could be done of the year of the last curse, even if it was several years after quarantine is lifted. The villagers are mostly dead. There are what few survivors there were, mostly want to stay with their relatives. Their whereabouts mostly unknown. It's a complete dead end. Oishi seemed to postulate to himself as he stared at the ceiling, as if trying to work out a memory from the rusty cogs in his head. And then he said in a completely sober voice, "The magazines made it seem like the curse of the fifth year was that disaster, but the actual curse happened on the day of the Watanagashi festival. A photographer by the name of Jiro Tomataki, he was the victim. Oishi gestured about how the victim tore out his own throat with his fingernails as he talked. And the burnt corpse of the woman Tomataki was in a relationship was found in the mountains in Gifu. The Gifu prefectural police weren't very cooperative, so I don't know much about it though. There were 2 victims in one night." Actually, see, it wasn't just those 2. You see, the next day, Kumagagi-tun, one of my subordinates, disappeared along with his car in the middle of the investigation. Kumagai was a younger detective that was going to be partner of Oishi after we first met. He was going around the village to question people with the incident with Tomataki. He might have gotten caught up in something. If he was with me, he might have been safe. Even now, it still stings. Don't blame yourself, Oishi. That day, for some reason, I did a real number on my stomach. I had to pass on going around outside. He got too close to the truth and was made to disappear. That's what I think. Kuma-chan was young and had a promising future ahead of him. But he still didn't have enough experience on the scene. He wasn't used to dealing with any complications. Oishi limited to the fact that he wasn't with his subordinate that day. And then the next day, you see, you know him as well, Akasaka-san. You know Dr. Irie. You remember him. Ah, that young doctor from the hospital. I vaguely remember. For whatever reason, he committed suicide with sleeping pills. No suicide note or anything. The autopsy confirmed that it was the sleeping pills. Nothing was in doubt except for the motive. It isn't that hard to make it look like somebody died from taking sleeping pills, is it? Any possibility it was a murder? He was single, no prior marriages. It didn't seem like he was going to go out with anybody in particular. He was the coach of the local junior baseball team. He was on good terms with the villagers. He was liked by everybody. I couldn't find anybody who would want to do him harm. Well, any chances to investigate were ruined by the disaster, though. There's no way to find out anything about him now. Then what about Rika Furude's death? It was the day of, around noon. Some of the old folks who were visiting the shrine discovered the corpse of Rika Furude. Murder. Before we continue, you should probably stop eating that squid somen. That bad? Oishi nodded firmly. The corpse was found on the shrine grounds next to the donation box, although she was probably killed somewhere else. That's because while she was completely naked, there wasn't any dirt on the soles of her feet. Any sign it was some sort of sexual assault. According to the autopsy, there wasn't any indication of that. What we know is that she was rendered unconscious by some sort of drug, carried to that place, and that her abdomen was sliced wide open. Her organs were deliberately removed and scattered about. Unconscious? Then she wasn't cut open after her death. That's horrible. That girl's prediction was right on the mark. I'm pretty sure she was more detailed about the other deaths that led up to her own. For example, I think she said the housewife was beaten to death on the 4th year, had her head split open. Then in that case, did she know that her own death would be so terrible? There must have been some moments where she wanted to doubt the validity of her own predictions, but as people died exactly as she prophesied. As the years passed, that prophecy would only come closer to fruition, and then facing that final year, unable to struggle against her own destiny, her all-too young life was snuffed out, and in such a cruel way. Knowing that her days were numbered and unable to fight the tide of events heralding her end, my heart ached at her helplessness. About the way she died, it seems like it wasn't just somebody's sick tastes. What I'm saying is, I've told you before about how Himazawa used to be a home to demons, didn't I? Yeah, I think I remember. The festival in Himazawa village with Tanagashi, the cotton drift, seems to stem from the drifting of entrails. It seems that it came from a man-eating demons ripping apart their victims and throwing their organs into the river. In other words, Himazawa pulling out the entrails at some sort of religious meeting. Well, this is according to the old tales. In Hinamazawa, you see. To act as an arbitrator, so the humans and the man-eating demons could live together peacefully, a god known as Oyashiro-sama descended from the heavens in her spaceship. If I recall, Rika Furude was said to be the living incarnation of that Oyashiro-sama, wasn't she? Yeah. So cutting open Rika Furude, who was a living god, would be to the village nothing less than an absolute sacrilege. Absolute sacrilege. In other words, you mean sacrilege towards Oyashiro-sama. The rest you should know, Akasaka-san. The wrath of Oyashiro-sama would occur that same night. The Great Hinamazawa disaster. The official explanation was that some swamp upstream erupted with toxic volcanic gas which enveloped the village. The swamp where it erupted was called Onagafushi Swamp. It was the origin of Hinamazawa's old name, Onagafushi Village. According to the village lore, the depths of the swamp apparently led to hell, where the man-eating demons came from. That almost seems too perfect. Oh, no. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There was another bit of folklore about the village. If Oyashiro-sama became angry, the cauldron of hell would open up, and miasma would flow out, or so they say. To the villagers, hell was at the bottom of the swamp. So basically the miasma poured out, smothering the village? Yeah, basically due to the sacrilegious way. That Rika Furude, the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was killed, the village incurred the wrath of Oyashiro-sama in the form of that disaster. That seems to be their explanation. So what you're saying is that the disaster wasn't a natural one. Well, everything does seem to fit together a little too well. If Oyashiro-sama's curse doesn't really exist, and everything really was just a matter of coincidence, I would doubt it. A wry smile formed on Oishi's face as he listened to my absurd take on things. He wore an expression as though, even if it were absurd, there was a time he had thought the same thing as well. In regards to the religious beliefs of the villagers, suppose there was a more fanatical following among them, and that group created a situation that would incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath and enacted the disaster to make it seem like the truth. Of course I won't laugh. I've wandered down that line of reasoning more than once myself. However, even though Hinamazawa is a small village, it still has a population of over 1,000 people. To murder that many people in a single night doesn't seem realistic, no matter how you think about it. The gas eruption was believed to have happened around 2 a.m., several hours before dawn. In that short amount of time, going in and around all the villagers in a way that makes it look like a poison gas doesn't seem feasible at all. And the swamp the gas erupted from still had some religious significance, didn't it? If that's the case, then maybe there was something set up in the swamp, something that could have activated whenever a divine verdict was rendered. According to the JSDF press release, the swamp was declared the source of the eruption. This was after everything was thoroughly looked over by the investigative team. If anything like that was set up, I think they would have found it. It wouldn't necessarily have to be in the swamp itself. Come on, haven't you ever heard about it? The old story about how when a faraway spring dried up, the village spring dried up as well? What do you mean by that? Many waterways are connected by underground aquifers. The swamps and springs are only parts that manage to pop up above the surface. So what you're saying is that Onagafushi Swamp is connected to another swamp or spring, and there's something the villagers rigged up there long ago? Something that changes the pressure of Onagafushi Swamp, causing it to erupt a poison gas? I mean, that's a far-fetched conspiracy. It would require like some advanced technology. I think it's even beyond what humanity has right now. We'd have to like go to the realm of aliens. It'd be like saying there's some giant underground mega structure underneath the pyramids in Egypt. Is that what you're getting at? Oishi laughed heartily, commending the fact that the youngins have a nice flexible way of thinking. That was the former detective in him. Even though it was a hypothesis that he didn't come up with, he still had the presence of mind to not dismiss it right away. That's an interesting theory. If that proves to be true, then it would be unprecedentedly the largest mass murder in the history of Japan. Once the quarantine on Himazawa village is lifted, I think I should definitely be investigated. Oishi-san, do you still have any connections with the prefectural police? Somewhat. I'm an honorary advisor for their judo classes, so even now I pop by during summer training camps and such. I don't know when the quarantine in Himazawa village will be lifted, but please let me help investigate. Got it. Oishi-san, how do you feel about the string of mysterious death in Himazawa they call the curse of Oyashiro-sama? At the time, the villagers were putting a lot of pressure on the station. The official stance on the things was that the cases were unrelated, that each case was separate, each with its own resolution. That couldn't be, even though it was blatantly obvious that the cases were connected based on the village's religious beliefs. Akasaka-san, we can only say that now because of the rather grandiose things ended after 5 years. At the time, those coincidental incidents just happened to coincidentally occur on the day of the Tanagashi. Just a "it would be nice if nothing happened this year" kind of feel to it. Coincidence. The girl predicted everything from the beginning. Girl. Rika Furude. That child warned me about all those incidents that would happen afterwards. Akasaka-san? Is that true? Yes. The girl said as much, that the next year the damn foreman would be killed and his corpse would be dismembered, now that she warned me of all the events that would transpire in the following years. Akasaka-san, when she told you all of that, what year was it? He seemed slightly upset. When I met the girl, I was investigating the kidnapping incident, so June of 1978, the year before the dismemberment murder. Wrinkles formed between Oyashi's eyebrows as he closed his eyes and began to digest what I had told him. Akasaka-san, if you're wrong about Rika Furude knowing the future, through some divine medium, this is getting ridiculous. Yep. If you're just trying to shock me, I'm going to be really angry, you know. I'm speaking the truth. Then the script behind the chain of the mysterious deaths was written a year before it even started, and it just as predicted Rika Furude was killed. At first I thought she meant that she would be killed in the disaster. However, now that I know that her death wasn't due to that, but rather an atrocious one at the hands of a murderer, she said she would be killed. At that point in time, she knew more or less how her own death would occur. Then why didn't Rika Furude? Not try and run away? Even if her death was already spelled out for her, knowing that, she still had a grace period of several years, didn't she? She had plenty of time to try and run away or consult the police. Why did she just accept her death with no resistance? I don't know. Even though Rika Furude was doted upon by the older folks in the village, you see, after she lost her parents, she had no living relatives, and lived a fairly solitary life other than hanging around with some close friends. It might have been she didn't have any power to fight, or anybody to rely on. She must have tried signaling somebody for help. In regards to her own death, though, you know very well the village and the police weren't very amicable with one another at Akasaka-san. At the very least, I never heard anything about Rika Furude seeking protection from anybody. She did try to get us to go back home to save her wife, and she did at least tell us about her prediction. Heck, even if we weren't involved at all, if we had just told Oishi that same day, when we woke up in the morning, about Rika's prediction, instead of being so overwhelmed by our own wife's death, maybe when those chain of events started to unfold, Oishi would have been able to save Rika. Probably would have prevented the death of his partner, too. Probably most of the other deaths. Or it could be that she simply resigned herself to being a religious sacrifice. It could have been something like that. There's no way that was the case. I spoke decisively at the time she said it. She had definitely said that she wanted to live happily, that she wanted to spend her time surrounded by her dear friends. She hadn't given up on life. She had hoped to keep on living. At that moment I became dumbstruck. What's the matter? Akasaka-san? No, it's nothing. I fell into silence. Oishi folded his arms and began murmuring contemplation again. Eventually he stood up and headed towards the hallway to find the hostess yelling that he wanted a pen and paper. When Oishi, noisy, even though he was just thinking, left, the room immediately fell into a chilled silence. I stood up. It was then I realized that I was drunk enough to be unsteady on my feet. When I slid open the window, a beautiful yet somehow ephemeral moon drifted across the night sky. It was just now that I realized she hadn't accepted her own death. She wanted to keep living. Happily and joyously. She had said that quite clearly to me, but I was a fool. I hadn't been asked explicitly, so I hadn't realized it. She had made it clear as day that she didn't want to die. Wasn't that her cry for help? She didn't say as much that she wanted help, but even given that, it wasn't as though she wasn't looking for salvation. Without any family, unable to trust the police, she instead told somebody without any relation to the village, somebody from a faraway place. Me. Help me. She had gone around and cut the phone cords. If I had made that phone call and learned of Yuki's death, I probably would have fallen into despair. If I was in that state, even if she was looking for help, her cries would have fallen on deaf ears. That's why. Knowing everything, she had cut the phone cords. She wanted even a little time to seek help from me. Oishi, just before now, had lamented that one of the younger officers got mixed up in the case, having been erased because he wasn't there. I was feeling the same way. If only I was there in the June 1983, I could have protected her. Side note, there is an anime that explores this option, where Akasaka is there in the June 1983. It does not end well. It's probably somehow made things even worse. But an attempt was made. Thankfully, Mario's got some one-up mushrooms here in this forest. I could have protected her. In 1983, it would have been 5 years since kidnapping took place. While raising the only daughter Yuki had left me, putting all my youth and passion into my work, honing my wits and courage, wrestling with my difficult cases. Nothing like my failings during the kidnapping incident would have occurred. I wouldn't have been slow to react in a one-on-one fight, and by that point, I'd jumped to foreign mafia-run gambling parlors where I'd learned to deal with automatic weapons, let alone handguns. I had grown so much that in 1983 I couldn't have been even compared to how I was in 1978. That's why, if I was by her side, I should have been able to save her life. No matter what conspiracy or foul plots drew near, I definitely would have protected her. She, even though sounded resigned, should have still been able to ask for help. I just didn't realize it. I couldn't realize it. Just as I wouldn't have realized it if I was told of Yuki's accident. I wasn't able to realize it. I wanted to cry. If I had taken her words to heart, I would have prevented Yuki's accident, and I would have been able to protect the girl, to whom I owed a debt from even a predetermined death. She must have been expecting that from me. I learned about the disaster while watching television in my house. Until I learned about that, I had forgotten about Hinamizawa. In order to recover from the shock of Yuki's death, I had tried to remove everything from that place from my memory. What an ungrateful fool I was. Even though in exchange for saving her, the girl had told me of a way to save Yuki, I was unable to accept her gratitude, and now here we were. She hadn't died in her sleep due to an unnatural disaster. She was split open while still alive, killed while suffering the disgrace of having her organs torn out. She must have known beforehand that on that day and that year, she would be killed in such a terrifying way. But even knowing what end awaited her, she was all too weak. A lone girl without anybody to rely upon, unable to seek help, had to swallow her own predetermined death and left this mortal coil. She said she wanted to live. She said she just wanted to live happily. That's all she wanted. She didn't ask for anything extravagant for any person that was ever born. It was the very barest of desires. She never said a peep about wanting money or that she wished she was in somebody else's situation. She had said it, that if all the deaths were preordained, then hers was probably also according to the plan. She might have been a lone, frail girl. But I don't think she would have accepted it all without at least putting up a fight. There must have been, in some small way, some form of resistance that she mustered. And with what she could muster, seeking my help was part of that. God damn it, I howled. I stomped on the floor. Why did I become a police officer in the first place? How could I call myself an officer if I couldn't save a single girl from the misfortune that was awaiting her? Was it because there was so much going on at that time that I couldn't process the fact that she was asking for help? Yeah, that's right, I was still green. If I was in that situation now, I would have definitely been able to help her, but it was already all over. Even if I wanted to settle the regrets that she left behind, Himazawa as a dangerous area was still quarantined. Most of the people involved were already dead, with the few that did remain spread around the country, unable to be traced. The stage of that tragedy was still off limits as well. The police investigation was put on hold. The case slowly being buried in the sands of time. Just like how I wouldn't have known unless Oishi had asked me about it. Akasaka-san? Are you okay? At some point Oishi had returned, with a notebook in hand. Until I saw the expression on Oishi's face, I didn't realize that it was in tears. I never realized she wanted help. Akasaka-san, calm down. But it's all too late now. She was killed in such an atrocious manner. If she was counting on me, but I couldn't save her. I couldn't save her. I might also be at fault for not building up an amicable relationship with the village. If Rika Furuta had told me about it, I might have been able to extend a helping hand. I wasn't able to build up enough trust for that. That's something I regret. When Oishi said the word trust, it weighed on me even more. Yes, she had given me her trust. She trusted me, meaning that she thought that I would have been able to ward off the fate of her foreseen death. She believed in that. I cried. I fell to my hands and knees as I began to bawl. Eventually Oshi spoke quietly. Kasuga-san? Does it upset you? It does. Then, there's only one way worth mentioning for Ruka Furude to have her revenge. Is there really? Is there a way to do that? Oishi showed me the pen and notebook. In order to properly mourn the death of Rika Furude, we have to at least find out the truth. The truth? Yes, and not just Rika Furude. Lots of people died. Their lament must be immeasurable, but their deaths were left unsettled because of the disaster. Now we can't even investigate them, as their memory fades into oblivion. Many people died. The old man was killed, Kuma-chan erased. Everybody was a victim, but the police can't even investigate it. Who's going to take care of their parting regrets? Only we can. Akasaka-san. We find the truth. Yeah, we'll find it. I've been around every one of the string of mysterious deaths and know all of the inner workings of the village. You were told an important truth the year before they happened by Rika Furude. We can do it. But they're already dead. Oh, that's right. Rika Furude died. You were too inexperienced, so you couldn't save her. Wow. Oishi grabbed me. It was a wreck, and lifted me firmly by the lapels. That's why, to atone for that, we reveal the truth. If what you say is true, then all the incidents were part of some greater design. If that's the case, then how we investigate this needs to change completely. I intend to spend tonight summarizing all the information you and I have, then get in contact with one of my former subordinates first thing in the morning. We're not going to let this case go cold. We're definitely going to crack it wide open. Crack it open. Crack it open. We will? Several years have passed, but it's not beyond the statute of limitations. Even if the case has been postponed, it's not closed. It's still going. We're going to keep it going. Oishi and I vowed to bring the truth of the case to light. And stood up. Then Lavos fell from the sky, and then we had a text saying the future, but the future refused to change. Everything ended in 1985. I, at least wanting to apologize, had searched for her grave. After the state autopsy, her remains entrusted to one of the shrine's followers. In the future, when the quarantine on the Himatsubushi area was lifted, they would return to her family grave. However, unsure who exactly took the remains of Rika Furude, until today, I couldn't even apologize to her. In the future, when the quarantine on Himatsubushi was lifted, all I could do then was wait until whoever that person is returned to the grave. What I could do right now was not apologize to her. Instead, until I was able to meet her again, I would reveal the truth and dispel her regrets. Even now, sporadic eruptions of gas in the Himatsubushi area meant the prospect of quarantine being lifted wasn't happening anytime soon. Most likely it seemed that she had no intention of meeting me again until I found the truth. That's why the quarantine wouldn't be lifted, or so I thought, until the day I grasped the truth. It was the following year. Oishi and I co-authored a book on the string of mysterious deaths leading up to the great Himatsubushi disaster. I decided on the title, Higurashi, When They Cry. That was because for the few days I was in Himatsubushi, the sound I remember the most was the cry of the Higurashi. I can only wish that based on this book, those people involved with the incident could refresh their memories and bring to light a new truth. And more importantly, that nothing like this ever happens again. I wrote this in the afterword. Why did this tragedy happen? We can't reach the truth by ourselves. If you're reading this, please discover the truth. That is our only wish. Kuradoushi, Mamoru Akasaka. This year, the quarantine in Himatsubushi still hasn't been lifted. Our only wish. Continued waiting for the quarantine to lift. Thank you very much for playing Higurashi When They Cry, himatsubushi. Oh my, no matter what anybody else says, I was the star of the scenario this time. On top of that, they added some nice jazzy theme music. If you can't laugh here, where can you laugh? Anyways. Hasn't there been too much of you lately, Oishi? Huh? What do you mean by that? Rika-sa. She meant that literally. Is everyone jealous that they didn't get to be a part of the show? Like Rena and Satoko didn't even get to show up. Mion was there for a couple scenes. Shion didn't even get mentioned at all. And Kaiichi is in pre-cram school. It's rather impudent of you to try to stay and hog the spotlight here, even though you already had all that screen time. Besides Rika-chan, who is the main heroine, everyone else didn't really have any appearances, did they? I heard that this time the scenario was a bit of a side story, but I didn't think they would leave out the main cast this much. You didn't have it so bad, Mion-san. At least you had a few appearances, did you not? Both Rena and I didn't even have a cameo. Rena still shows up on the covers a lot, so she's still okay. Exactly what are you trying to say? Are we talking about the manga version of this? That I was the only outcast with no appearance? Is that it? Nipa. Boy. They only treated me horribly. Wow. How sad, how sad. They'll probably just keep treating you worse and worse until you finally drop down to a supporting role. Well, I mean, that is what happens. So, she does prophesize the future. That's just too much. That's not true. There's lots of people who like Satoko-chan. They won't treat you that horribly, okay? I don't like being treated like this. Wow. I think you'll probably have a lot of appearances next time. I don't think you want those appearances, Satoko. I know what happens in the next part of the story arc. You have appearances, but they're not good ones. So cheer up, okay? But I'd heard that this scenario was supposed to be somewhat of a bonus story, but is it really? I think that things kind of got complicated. The story was difficult for me to understand. Meep. Yeah, what I found the hardest to believe was that the year before the String of Mysterious Death, Rika-chan already knew about them. Which means all the incidents were part of someone's scenario. That's a pretty important piece of information. It probably because I'm a shrine maiden, so I knew the future from Oyashiro-sama's divine revelations. For somebody like me who believes in the theory that this is work of human culprits, I'd like to deny that. I believe in the curse, so that Rika-chan, who is the living incarnation of the deity that protects Saber's out, or Yoshiro-sama, could have the divine power is a possibility, I think. Nope. For someone who thinks it was the work of man, that kind of unfounded fantasy will not stand. All the incidents were caused by people. There's no curse or magic or aimbots or cheat codes. It would be wonderful if I could use magic, though. Why'd you cast magic missile? If it's Rika-chan, I can go along with that. How? Well, for the people who believe it was the work of humans, the ending was a big revelation. From the first incident until Rika-chan was killed, and the great disaster, everything was scripted. Knowing that it's all one big incident vastly increased the amount of material you can hypothesize with. I think that the prophecy is proof in itself that Rika-chan has some divine power. In other words, it's proof that there's some mysterious power at work in Himazawa. I think it's proof that the incidents weren't the work of humans alone. The inside of my head is so muddled I don't know what's going on. Oh, that's right, more importantly, that expression that Rika-chan was wearing this time. That was super scary, wasn't it? Meep. Yeah, I was surprised too. I never thought that cute little Rika-chan would laugh like that. Hey, just for a little bit, could you show us that face one more time? I don't want to. I don't want her to do that outside of the story. How? What? What is this? A blackout? Nobody move. Anywhere movements and you'll come face to face with a combo trap that takes you from a pendulum to a landmine to an electric chair with a buzzsaw. So Satoko, what's the meaning of this? Ho 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 ho. We'll now be starting the after party for everybody who didn't have an appearance this time. Oh, hee hee. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Hello again, everybody. I didn't think that I'd have an appearance here, but of all places. I'm delighted, though. Satoko-chan, thank you. Whoa, hello, everybody. Kya? Oh my, didn't I warn you not to move? Ryuga-san, are you okay? Hojo-san, you didn't have to go that far. This far. Oh ho, the grudge of somebody not making an appearance is a terrible thing. Satoko had lots of appearances in the main scenario. The grudge of somebody not making an appearance? Damn it, when was she able to set this many traps? Maybe that was when this place was selected as the venue for the after party? At that point my traps were already set. Oh ho. Oh, I know. There is somebody behind you pulling the strings. There is, isn't there? Come out. Shion? Yep. I don't think you can complain about not being in this scenario when you're the main star of the next one. Then again, Satoko was the main star of the previous one. Hello, my dear sister. How are you doing? Oh, it's Shion-chan. Hello. Gya! I feel sorry for her falling for the same trap twice. I thought it was you, Shion. Thought it was you, Shion. Even though you're penciled in to be the main character in the next scenario, this is an outrage. Now you've gone and done it. Even if it's only the bonus scene before the answer arcs, I can't let my sister have all the appearances. I'm not that generous, you know. Well, in any case, I just let Satoko start a little something something. Grr, Shion, what is it that you want? Let's just say that I'm securing myself a little safety buffer. The other day, for some reason, you were steadily getting more votes in the popularity poll. Yep, in the first half of the Watanagashi chapter, there were a lot of people getting infatuated with Mi-chan. Heh heh heh. When your malicious side made its appearance, all the players finally started noticing my charm. Satoko also earned a good reputation during the Tatari Hiroshi arc. Ren and Rika-chan have a strong baseline of support. Your popularity has long since faded away. That's why I thought I'd take the time now to crush you and Satoko, who have been getting too many votes for my comfort, so I came with this elaborate plan. Huh? Shion-san, what did you say just now? I mean, technically you do that quite a bit to her in the next arc. You're going to crush me as well? You're a little slow to notice, aren't you, Shorty? Here you go. What? Goodbye, all you regulars. Hello to all you irregular folk. All the main characters are done for. Shion-chan? You don't have to go that far, probably. Now, Jiro-san. It's interesting, so just let it be. The number of appearances for the both of us is going to go up, you know. Jiro-san, do you not like being by my side? That's not true. Chie-sensei. Did Chi-chan pay you off too? I'm sorry, Ryoga-san. Shion said she would make me a new thing called Teach Me, Chie-sensei, starting from the next scenario, so I just... Well then, who should I dispose of? In a most embarrassing manner. Maybe Satoko, since she helped me set this all up. I won't allow that. Hiya! Coach! He seems somehow reliable for once. I, Kyosuke Airi, shall not allow any aggression against Satoko-chan. I may also just be a supporting character, but don't think you can persuade me so easily. Oh, then you're saying you want to withdraw from being the lead in my live performance, Satoko's maid training dress-up chapter that we planned on filming after this? Shion-sama? I, Kyosuke Airi, shall follow you to the depths of hell. That was fast. Well then, with this I'm holding all the cards. Even this after-party scene too. I'll have everything proceed as I see fit. Huh? We're missing somebody. Shion-sama? Rena-san isn't here. She escaped at some point. There she is. Ryoga-san, didn't I just tell you shouldn't move? Rena-chan, I won't do anything to hurt you, but it's easier if you don't resist. I'm sorry, but all this is really bizarre. What are you trying to do? The light switches? See, you're planning to do something when the room's pitch black, aren't you? Hee, resistance is futile. Rena-san, you should stop your pointless resistance and come along peacefully. If you make me angry enough, then not only will you suffer, but so will my dear sister as well. You can't do anything just for turning off the lights. Retta, I'm sorry, but do what they say. It's alright. Don't worry. By turning off the lights so we can reverse the situation. Reverse the situation? Exactly what are you scheming? Ah ha ha ha. Rena-san, you're pretty good at making me laugh. Then why don't you go ahead and try? Show me how you're going to turn this around. You're spoiled, Chi-chan. Even if you don't have any appearances in the main scenario, you've had so much screen time during this after party, you're spoiled. When exactly are you saying I was spoiled? You don't understand, Chi-chan. Even if it's just the after party, you still have an appearance. You also appeared a lot in the previous scenarios. There's somebody who resents you from the depths of hell, who can't forgive you. Listen, can't you hear it, Chi-chan? That's right. I understand now. I get it. K-chan. That's right, he never has any appearances during the after parties. There's no way K-chan would allow somebody to monopolize the after parties all to themselves without him. I see. So, how is K-chan going to appear here when he doesn't even have any character art? It couldn't possibly be that they'd insert new character art just for this. Hehehe. That's just your self-centered way of thinking, Chi-chan. Gah! No! If the lights are turned off... Chie-sensei, hold Rena back! Huh? Huh? It's too late! Save me, Keiichi-kun! Coo. Ooh, that voice is K-chan? Rena, you have my thanks. When even the moon abandons the land and shrouds it in true darkness, the demon lord of the darkest black, Keiichi Mabura, shall appear. I see, if it's like this, he can appear even if he doesn't have any character art. There's no character or background art, so it's really easy on the production staff. Bwah! Shion! You act like you're the main character in a tragedy. From my point of view, it's more like a comedy. It seems like you've gotten a little carried away. Every after party, without any character art, without any sort of appreciation. Witness my anger, my grudge, and all of my sorrow. I shall instill it all upon you. It almost seems like Keiichi-kun is doing some sort of bad guy transformation sequence. This isn't some sort of transformation. You know, I have always been a demon lord. And as of right now, this world, which is enveloped within true darkness, shall dance upon the palm of my hand. Within this world of darkness, there are none who can oppose me. Keiichi-kun is kind of scary. How scary? Wahaha! The age of the frightening higurashi has come to an end. From here on out begins the dawn of a perverted and cutesy higurashi. What did you say? Mabura-sama, bring me with you. Gah, you know it, coach. Then, as a first step, I'll show our Dr. Cum coach my power. Hurrah! Kya? What is this? Takano-san is in a mini skirt. I want to see that. Nurse outfit. And it's not some pink one like You'd find in a port he knows what he's doing. It's a proper, pure, and innocent white. Even though she's a nurse, she doesn't appear in the outfit once during the main scenario. You've got to be kidding me. Well then, on to the next target. Rena. This hasn't changed the situation at all. It's just turned into a different type of crisis. How? I can't do anything in this darkness. Now then, who should I make wear what next? Maybe a nice school uniform, gym clothes, school swimsuit triple combo. Mabra-sama, you're the best! How about a bunny girl or a campaign girl costume? No, lingerie could be good too. No, wait. Why am I imagining dressing up the cast of higurashi in fucking Street Fighter cosplay? Mion could be Cammy. How about just about making everybody naked? But of course, leave the socks on. Have to leave the socks on. Or thigh highs, or fishnets. Whoa, that's a good idea. You know your stuff, coach. I feel like we're finally seeing eye to eye here. Wait, Mabra-san. No, Kay! Call me Ill from now on. Call me Dr. Ill. Kai, you can't forget about us. Tommy and Kuroda are already on your side, Kay. Tomataki and Oishi. Tommy, Kuroda, we're all finally here. The Elite Four have arrived. Finally. With Kay at their head, the evil Elite Four made their grand entrance. With the complete darkness, the Demon Lord of Darkness, the darkest black, Keiichi Mabra was finally able to reach the surface world. His magical power was without equal. In this darkness, nobody could stand against him. All must bow. Would the heroines be unable to escape this darkness and be forced to submit to the will of the Demon Lord, forced to wear embarrassing outfit after embarrassing outfit, being used as life-size dress-up dolls for all eternity. That's great! More! By the way, the school swimsuits are the classic type, right? I won't forgive you if they're the competitive swimming style. Damn it! Shion! Thanks to you, it ended up like this, so do something about it. It's alright, Set. Kei-chan isn't the only one who can unleash their true power amid the darkness. Huh? Did we have such a convenient ally? Gwahaha! You're rather impertinent, Shion Sonozaki. Also, if you were expecting help from the principal, that's too bad. This is the ultimate desire of young men. You call yourself a man, do your best, is written on the nice little authorization slip here. Of course, you won't be able to rely on the newcomer Akasaka-san either. He's been on a private couple's hot spring vacation. His wife's family set up for them since yesterday. Oh, good for him. His family's not dead. It was at that moment Shion revealed that she had a giant futa cock. And big, giant futa balls. Fat nuts. Gotta make that a Stolfo reference. Yes, we're referencing Futanari and femboys here. In other words, all the bases are covered. All the bases are covered. You're so naive, Kei-chan. And there's a picture of, like, various VTuber models with strap-ons. I think I'm scaring the developers of this game. Provided they were ever to watch any of my videos. Even characters who have art are able to reveal their true form in the darkness. Chie-sensei! That's how it is, Mabara-kun. It's dark, so I can't really tell, but it seems like Chie's outfit is different. What are those? Are all those swords in her hands? They couldn't be. Anymore? That is a secret. Yes, it's about... The character art of Chie-sensei is actually based on another anime character from a shonen manga where they have, like, like 8 swords or something. Nipa! Mabra-kun. That was just a little too much mischief on your part. The church can't overlook any more than this. Right, yeah, you're a nun in that other story. Well, what? Wait a minute! This here. There's no way, right? That's cheating. It's against the rules. Hey, she can't do this, right? But wait, you can't use that big one? Okay, I made a fucking futanari or strap-on joke. I made a joke about futa, cock, and then we went with this. Her arc drive has been startup invincibility. The 7th. Yeah! Okay. We're now making hentai noises. Was that a reference also to the fighting game? That's a mix of higurashi as well as the Unameko series? Ah, hello again. Thank you very much for playing Higurashi When They Cry. Himatsubushi. I think you all already know this, but Higurashi When They Cry is a type of visual novel without any choices. Therefore, compared to adventure-type visual novels with branching routes to take, it's much closer to the experience of a book or a movie. Because of that, there is the opinion out there that this should not be called a game per se. And if you're just watching it like a book or movie, Higurashi When They Cry isn't really a game, true. That's why, as you know, there are a lot of mysteries referenced during the course of the experience. When you challenge those, this work will become a proper game. All the players have the privilege of scrutinizing this mystery-packed story from all sorts of angles. For example, forming a theory about the mysteries during the course of the story, sharing them with your friends, and receiving their theories in return could be fun. In any case, the next chapter starts the answer arcs. We've tentatively called it Miyakashi. But answers are a sad thing. Based on what is revealed, all the possibilities that you were allowed to imagine until now will suddenly become refined down to a few. Based on that logic, we think that right here, before the answer arcs, is probably where people can enjoy this work. We call Higurashi When They Cry the most. If by chance, while you are reading this, you already have the Miyakashi chapter at hand, please enjoy hypothesizing, theorizing, and fantasizing to the fullest before you start. That's where the real charm of the series takes place. Sorry for saying something so impudent. There is nothing better we'd like than for you to enjoy Higurashi When They Cry. Well then, have a long and pleasant night. We're waiting for you all in Hinamizawa. If you come and play with Rena, I'd love to go treasure hunting together. How? After party. Well, I technically have 4 answer arcs and then 2 after games to play with Higurashi. And then sometime in October, even though it's still May, Union Rhythm Psychosis Denpa Brain Rot should be out.